The year is 1995, and after the runaway success of Doom, LucasArts has decided to enter the FPS gaming space with their release of Star Wars Dark Forces for PC. In a world surrounded by Doom clones where the only plot was, ooh look demon, let's punch it in the face, LucasArts decided to take, well, a different approach and designed a full campaign with a unique story, villain, and of course, a new hero. This was the birth of fan favorite Katarn, a mercenary for hire that brought down the Empire's Dark Trooper project, and later in 1997, when Dark Forces 2 released, learned how to use the Force and hunted down and stopped the Dark Lord Jarek from using the power of the Valley of the Jedi to rule the galaxy. The first two Dark Forces games are something very unique for the time they came out, both releasing prior to Half-Life, the FPS to rule over all FPSs. Now, Half-Life is normally given credit as the game that normalized having environmental storytelling and deeper narratives in the FPS genre, mostly because the game was just so amazing that everyone wanted to be like it. Unfortunately, this means though Dark Forces started on the path of creating rich and engaging narratives in the genre far earlier, it was kinda quickly overshadowed, never really getting the credit it deserved, and unfortunately was kinda left behind and forgotten by many. Now, I was only 2 years old when Dark Forces 1 released, so I have a good excuse for not playing it till much later. But fortunately for me and my friends who missed out on the Dark Forces games, we still had our own entry into the legend that is Katarn. So around 2002 to 2006 is normally recognized as the golden age of Star Wars video games, with amazing classics like Rogue Leader, Knights of the Old Republic, Battlefront 1 and 2, Republic Commando, and of course the return of the OG Star Wars first-person shooter hero Katarn in Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Okay, so here's where some of the confusion hit for some of us back in the day. If this is Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, it was obviously a sequel, yet in a time when internet access was restricted to whenever no one was on the phone, and a simple image took 3 hours to process, finding answers like this wasn't exactly easy, and especially so when it comes to just the weird way they ended up naming this series. You had the original game simply called Dark Forces, a straightforward classic FPS. Then later, Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, where they introduced lightsaber combat and force powers. Then we had Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, an expansion, but still a solid game in its own right. And now, Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. So yeah, a little all over the place when it comes to the names. I mean, is this the Dark Forces series or the Jedi Knight series? I mean, maybe starting at Dark Forces 2, you can say that's when it turned to Jedi Knight series and not the Dark Forces series. I don't know. Point is, as a kid, this was just a little bit confusing. Fortunately, given it had been 5 years since Dark Forces 2 and its expansion released, Jedi Outcast made sure to do things in a way where most people were still able to just jump into it without the prior game's knowledge and still pretty much piece together most of Kyle's history based on just the exposition dialogue.
Kyle? Kyle Katarn? You're the legendary hero who destroyed Jarek at the Valley of the Jedi?
Now, did I know about the amazingly hammy Dark Lord Jarek when I first played?
Morgan Katarn!
Not at all, but at least I had some idea as to what might have happened. Now, of course, these days you can go online and find gameplay, walkthroughs, cutscenes, and hell, even musical numbers explain the story of past games.
In the Valley of the Jedi, where legends are born, Kyle faces Jarek in the breaking dawn. With lightsabers clash and destiny's song, the fate of the galaxy hangs right and wrong.
But back then, it really wasn't possible to just hop online and find this sort of stuff, so the dialogue and cutscenes here were very important to get right, especially when you consider the fact that thanks to Jedi Outcast releasing on consoles as well as PC, as compared to Dark Forces 2 being a PC exclusive, this was many people's first time stepping foot into the Dark Forces / Jedi Knight storyline. Now, I say all this to simply make the point that Raven Software was given a tall task here and yet did a great job at making it so longtime fans would have a lot to appreciate and new fans wouldn't be left wondering what the hell's happening. Oh yeah, I should probably mention, Outcast, as well as its follow-up game Academy, was developed by Raven Software, a switch from the prior games which were all made in-house by LucasArts. Unfortunately, now Raven has been relegated to just assisting with the endless franchise that is Call of Duty, as it just pumps out more and more dribble. But there was a time when they were behind many games that me and my friends greatly enjoyed, and even with Raven's excellent history, I really do believe the Jedi Knight games are the best games Raven has ever developed. I mean, the story is amazing, the voice acting and writing are great, and the combat, my god, the lightsaber combat is still better than any game out there. I mean, no game has even come close to the smooth but intense feeling of the lightsaber combat that Raven established all the way back when this game first hit shelves in 2002. But I'm getting way too ahead of myself here, so why don't we just go ahead and start this game up, and maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to put into words why to this day Jedi Outcast is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars games ever made. So like any good Star Wars game, we first start with the opening crawl, this time telling us how, for the most part, it's a time of relative peace as the New Republic works to fight the Imperial remnants that were left over after the fall of Palpatine. We're given pretty much just the footnotes of Kyle's past adventures, mentioning how he defended the Valley of the Jedi from Jarek, and later decided to sever his connections to the Force due to nearly falling to the dark side himself. Now, the game mostly implies this is because of what we saw in Mysteries of the Sith, when Mara Jade had to actually save him from being corrupted by an ancient Sith temple, and the PTSD from that experience causing him to somewhat despise the Force and anything to do with it, which is pretty understandable. I mean, hell, I still have nightmares of all those damn Vornskir. In my head, this is the entire reason as to why Kyle left the Jedi, because it makes a lot of sense for his character, and more importantly, it keeps the games pretty consistent. However, in the lore, Kyle actually did go back to the Jedi and then left after seeing some Padawans fall to the dark side, reminding him just how easy it can happen. Again, I like to kind of think it was the Mara Jade experience that made it so he turned away from the Force, but what you gonna do? Point being, Kyle is back to his gunslinging mercenary ways, and with his partner, Jan Ors has been taking on missions for the New Republic, and has now been asked to investigate a thought to be near abandoned Imperial base.
Preparing for final approach. Whatever's causing those transmissions, it's not showing up on any of the sensors. This Imperial outpost looks as abandoned as reported.
It's as dead as the rest of Kedjum. Mon Mothma must be getting paranoid. She never used to send pros like us out on blue milk runs like this.
So in every game, we seem to get a new voice actor for Kyle. In Dark Forces 1, we had Nick Jameson. In Dark Forces 2, we had the fantastic Jason Court. In Mysteries of the Sith, we had Reno Romano. And in Jedi Outcast, we have the very talented Jeff Bennett. And no disrespect to the other Kyles here, but this is the voice of Kyle as far as I'm concerned. Again, the other actors did a great job, but this version of Kyle has that wisecracking scoundrel act down pat. I will say, one thing I do find pretty funny about this choice of voice actor is how Reno Romano from Mysteries of the Sith also played the narrator in Curious George, while Jeff Bennett played Ted. And while Reno Romano did the voice of Revan in Knights of the Old Republic, Jeff Bennett ended up playing Revan in Star Wars The Old Republic. Now, maybe I'm just a little weird, but I've always enjoyed seeing where actors cross over in different projects, and this one just kind of amused me. We also have Jan, played by Vanessa Marshall, who is probably now most well known as the voice for Hera Syndulla in Star Wars Rebels, which is kinda neat that she's still going on and doing more Star Wars related work. But I'll go ahead and shut up now so we can get on with the game.
Kyle, Jan, greetings.
Mon Mothma, Kyle was just talking about you.
Sorry, real quick, played by Carolyn Seymour and is Dr. Chakwas from Mass Effect as well as Queen Mira from Gears of War.
Mon Mothma, Kyle was just talking about you.
No doubt. I bring troubling information about your mission on Kedjim.
I hate it when you say troubling.
We've managed to decode a small fraction of the transmission we intercepted earlier, and, well, listen for yourselves.
I will fire into shadow. First to full system. We may have to the Valley of the Jedi. Reborn warrior.
The Valley of the Jedi?
Reborn?
We believe this transmission was intended for Galak Fayar, the suspected leader of the remnant forces in that sector. It's probably nothing more than a couple of soldiers telling tales around the glow lamp. But as you are the only survivors of the Valley of the Jedi incident, I thought it only fair to warn you that this mission may be more dangerous than we originally anticipated. Your objectives, however, remain the same. Find out what you can, clear out any remnant forces you encounter, and may the Force be with you.
So much for the Blue Milk Run.
So first thing I want to point out before we get too deep into the game is that by default the game does not run in widescreen. And normally for a retrospective I like to play a game as accurately as when the game was released, so no mods or any major graphical overhauls of any kind. However, you can force the game to run in 1080p by simply editing some of its files. It looks a heck of a lot better and doesn't mess with any of the game's assets at all, so I figured, why not? Also, this game has a ton of copyrighted music in it, like pretty much all Star Wars games from this generation did, so I'll be doing what I always do and just try to replace it with some non-copyrighted Star Wars music instead. Now, the start of Jedi Outcast is actually fairly similar in theme at least to the start of Dark Forces 1, with us sneaking into an Imperial base armed only with our trusty Briar pistol.
Oh yeah, where you moving? Sector 7 had an opening, so I applied. Not bad. Should be a quiet last day.
Man, I love the ragdolls in this game. Now, while we look for an entrance to the base, we can end up having the opportunity to pick up this keycard from an Imperial officer here, something that we'll actually be doing a lot of throughout the game. A really cool thing about this mechanic, however, is that some of the officers will drop keycards to supply rooms and boxes that contain extra health, ammo, or items, which really encourages you to just start looking around and exploring a bit more. We end up using a defense turret in order to blast open the doorway before using the elevator to then enter the base. And here the game actually gives you a little bit of a choice. If you aren't really the patient type, you can just do what worked before and blast your way in, setting off all the alarms you like. Or if you just wait a minute for the elevator to go back up, you can actually sneak below, avoiding them at least for the time being. Now, whatever you choose, you'll still have to eventually go below to try to make your way into the security room, making the choice not really mean all that much. However, simple things like this, even somewhat minor, really do add some flavor to the game and gives you a good illusion of choice. I really love the aesthetics of the Imperial bases in this game. It just feels so right for Star Wars. From the galactic basic words on the terminals to the iconic looking terminals themselves, all of it looks just fantastic. Also, finding this particular security terminal will let Jan take control of it, opening up more of the base for us to explore. Now, this is probably as good of a time as any to mention one of the few negatives about Outcast. And that is, unfortunately, its gunplay. It's not terrible or anything, but it just feels, I don't know, just kinda off. Part of it's due to this strange dynamic crosshair implemented that has a semi-lock-on feature to it, but it just doesn't really work well at all. You can adjust it and turn it off in the settings, but even besides that, you still have other problems, like how fast and erratically the AI can sometimes choose to move, and thanks to the pretty slow projectiles, it makes hitting them with blasters like the E11 kind of just a pain in the ass at times. Fortunately, the AI isn't too accurate with them either, and once you get a lightsaber, spoilers, you really have very little need to go back using blasters outside of a few select occasions, so it's not really that big of a deal. Again, it's not terrible gunplay. I mean, the game runs on the id Tech 3 engine, so it definitely has the bones of a good shooter. But some of the default settings and the way the weapons just generally operate cause the game to suffer somewhat in that respect, and it can be pretty jarring, especially in these early levels. Either way, as we proceed through the base, we eventually come across an Imperial code.
Looks like an Imperial code.
This, as well as 2 other codes we have to find, are used to access another section of the base, and these Imperial codes are somewhat reminiscent of the codes in Dark Forces 1, which is something I'm very glad they brought back here, considering how in Dark Forces 2, they just kinda got rid of that unique feature in favor of having just more standard key hunting. The other 2 codes are located at the other corners of the base, with the green code being locked behind a door, making you have to escort Jan to a new terminal in order to open. Now, the red code is a bit more interesting. On the red side of the base, we first come across the control panel, where we can actually listen in on the Remnant's transmissions back to their Star Destroyer.
Convey my dissatisfaction with Commander Stephen on his performance. Inform him that he's been removed from command and will be reassigned. That is all.
It's not really a necessary thing to do, but it does give a small glimpse into some of the operations here. Now, the red code here is locked in a certain section of the communication area of the base, making you have to actually find a way around to get inside. Unfortunately, thanks to the incompetence of some of the stormtroopers, there is a small fire around this section of the base. Okay, so big fire.
What was that?
Just another day at work, Jan.
Yeah, just another day at work, blowing shit up. Well, in the past he probably would have just nuked the place, so progress. Either way, as we continue, we come face to face with some probe droids, which, by the way, look fantastic, like they came straight out of the movies. And after fighting a few of them, we wind up dropping into, well, what they thought was a secure room to get that final code. Alright, so where is that damn code at? Holy shit! Yeah, so some stormtroopers and officers seem to have the ability to rapid fire their E11 same as you do, and there really isn't a good way of knowing which ones can and can't do that, so it can really come as a surprise sometimes when you turn a corner and just get blasted by them. But hey, we got the last code and can finally open the door to search deeper into the base.
Jan, prep the ship for takeoff. I just want to check out one last area.
Meet with the ship.
Fire!
Now here's where the level starts to change a bit, where we are now going through some of the Imperial labs, starting to catch a glimpse as to what they might have been doing here all along. We find cryo storage areas, dead prisoners, what looks to be a training area, and even these strange green crystals that seem to be at the heart of all of their experiments. The level also introduces us to a couple new enemies, both of them droids. First one is the combat droid. They become very easy later on in the game, but in these early levels can be a little aggravating with how they can kind of just reflect blaster fire back when they're not firing themselves. We also find the torture droid in some of the prison cells, which, by the way, do not let touch you because it will give you a terrible case of motion sickness. Okay, I hear you, but where? Oh, motherfucker! God damn! Oh my god, this is awful. This is terrible. Oh my god, I'm gonna hurl. I've heard some people complain that this level is too maze-like and easy to get lost in, but it really isn't that bad. Most of the time you're consistently moving forward, so it's easy to kind of just keep going in the right direction. Then again, I did just get done playing Dark Forces 2 and Mysteries of the Sith, so maybe I'm just getting a little better at navigating, I don't know. What was an issue for me was forgetting about that damn turbo laser ambush. Oh, what's that? Holy sh... Well then. Okay then. Oh, motherfucker. Oh man, I forgot to fucking save. God damn it. Yeah, Jedi Outcast has very few, if any, checkpoints mid-level, so if you forget to save, you will be screwed because as the game goes on, you will die pretty often depending on the difficulty. Fortunately, on the PC version, you can quickly save with F10, but this was a massive issue for the console ports where you had to go through the main menu and save your file any moment you wanted to even take a risky jump, which can be fairly often in this game. Speaking of jumping, you can actually practice a bit of it in the training room and be rewarded with back-to-tanks and supplies. It also teaches you that without the Force, Katarn is, well, a lot like me, and that he just can't jump to save his life. I mean, I get the fact they wanted the standard jump to feel a little off so that you feel powerful as hell after getting Force jump, but when you have to go through a good portion of the game with a 2-inch vertical leap, it can be just a little annoying. Oh god, the poison room. Or maybe it's supposed to be radiation since it's coming off the crystal. I don't know. What I do remember is, as a kid, I was stuck here for so long, it wasn't even funny. I mean, all you have to do is run in real quick to pick up the key off the dead officer and use it to enter the droid control terminal. But as a kid, I thought the poison was far stronger than it actually is, so I ran around for like an hour before taking the chance to actually enter. Thank God I didn't do that this time. Either way, at the droid control terminal, we actually pilot a mouse droid of all things to go in and deactivate the machine causing the poison so that we can proceed through. Which makes this, I think, the only game I know of that actually lets you play as a mouse droid. I mean, I might be mistaken on that, but if there is another game, I can't really think of it. So if you know of a game where you can play as a mouse droid, please let me know in the comments below.
Jan, I found an exit.
Good. Grab some of those crystals and get yourself out of there. This place is giving me the creeps.
Lord Desan, this is Admiral Fayar.
So something I actually didn't know till recently is that Admiral Fayar is actually voiced by one of the GOATs of voice acting, Steve motherfucking Blum.
See you, space cowboy. Bang.
I mean, to go through his most iconic performances would still take like an hour in itself. I mean, my personal favorites are probably Grunt, Zabuza, and of course the icon himself, Spike Spiegel. I mean, the reality is that if you think of any of your childhood shows or video games, especially from the early 2000s, it's a very good chance he was more than likely a part of it. Hell, the funny thing is I went down recently and saw my 3-year-old watching that Lion Guard cartoon, and what do you know, Steve Blum was one of the villains on that, so even my son is gonna grow up with Steve Blum, I guess. I actually barely recognize his voice here, however, he does use his normal voice for some of the enemies later on.
Lord Desan, this is Admiral Fayar.
Ah, Admiral Fayar, how go our experiments?
As of this moment, they're not going at all. The testing facility on Kajim has been neutralized by a pair of New Republic mercenaries, and they've taken some of the crystals.
Mercenaries? Who?
Judging by their ship and the conversations our cameras picked up, I believe it was the pilot Jan Oz and her mercenary partner Kyle Katarn.
Katarn, eh? This setback could prove to be the answer to all our problems.
I'm afraid we haven't been able to decode any more of that transmission.
Good. If I put the Valley of the Jedi behind me, so can the rest of the galaxy.
So what were the Remnant doing in that lab?
Our scientists believe that they were trying to artificially infuse the powers of the Force into living subjects. Those crystals you're holding are very much like those found in a Jedi's lightsaber.
Spast!
But that's impossible, isn't it? You can't just give people the Force with a machine, right?
Everything we know about the Force tells us that such devices are nothing but the fevered dreams of fools and madmen, Jan. But try telling that to those poor beings you found in that laboratory.
Who were they?
Colonists from Artis Prime, a remote mining world on the far reaches of the New Republic's influence.
Let me guess. Crystal mining.
Yes, we lost contact with them shortly before receiving the transmission from Kejim. Now we fear that the colony has been captured by the Remnant.
Or worse.
Indeed. Without knowing the full extent of the Remnant's plans, or the colonists' plight, the New Republic is uneasy about sending in a full liberation force,
So you'd like us to sneak in, assess the situation, and call in the fleet if necessary?
Yes.
You know I don't like messing with this Force business anymore.
We'll double your usual fee.
We'll take it.
So after learning about the Imperial Remnant taking over a crystal mine in order to try and use the crystals to give people the Force, we decide to go and investigate. The start here is pretty cool with you needing to avoid a spotlight in order to not alert the guards, and afterwards you end up jumping across some pipes that are just clearly not up to code. I mean, one of these pipes has to be to something important, right? I mean, Space OSHA is going to lose their freaking mind here. Man, he just did a straight backflip off there. That was awesome. I give him a 10 out of 10 for the dismount. His landing? Yeah, who knows. Oh yeah, I like this part. So if you ride the elevator all the way down, you end up getting ambushed when the doors open. But if you instead slide off early over here, then you enter the secret area where you can actually ambush them instead. In all seriousness, having little secrets like this instead of the same old health and shield pickups is an awesome way to reward players for actually looking around. However, don't get too cocky because this is not the only ambush they have for you.
Find cover!
Alright, I heard you. Where'd y'all go off to? I know they're in here somewhere. Maybe the back. Oh no, there you go. Oh god, that's a lot of them. Oh god, that's a lot of them. Oh shit, that's a lot. Okay, the trip mines. Oh wait, no, I forgot. That's not how they work. Fuck, god damn it. God, I can't hit shit in this game. I swear to God. So yeah, I kind of got messed up in there a little bit. But you know what? At least we got the bowcaster, which is always a lot of fun. The bowcaster is a lot like it was in Dark Forces 2, being an accurate gun with pretty moderate damage, with its alt fire being either a 3-bolt spread that can hit multiple enemies, or one single powerful charge shot that can pretty much one-shot most stormtroopers. After fighting through some moderate resistance, we get to the first real puzzle of the level, needing to find a way into the rest of the mine. There are plenty of shipments going into the mines, but they all have to get decontaminated as they enter, which instantly kills you. So because of that, we have to find a way to of course disable that system before we can sneak our way in. Now, one of the few complaints I see this game get a lot of is how almost every level is going to have some form of an environmental puzzle you'll need to solve in order to proceed. However, if I'm being honest, except for only a couple of instances, I kinda praise the game for that. Some of the puzzles in Dark Forces 2, and especially Mysteries of the Sith, were kinda nonsensical at times. But almost all the puzzles here in Jedi Outcast can be reasoned through without too much trouble. They almost always require a pretty common sense solution that anyone should be able to figure out if they just kind of slow down and just kind of think about it for a moment. In this case, we need to find a way to disable the decontamination system, and by seeing the core rise out of the ground to activate, it's pretty clear we should probably find a way below. And what do you know, a pipe that leads right to the room. The reality is that almost all the puzzles in this game are pretty reasonable, and even if you get stuck on one for a little bit of time, finding the solution is kind of like that same feeling you get in Portal of, oh, it wasn't hard, I'm just an idiot. After riding the shipping container for like 2 seconds, we jump into one of the mines that introduces us to one of the more irritating enemies in the game, the mine crabs. And yes, they are actually called mine crabs in the files, a weird name, I know. To be honest, they're really easy and do very little damage, however they are just such a pain in the ass to get rid of, making you have to either risk getting up close to hit them with your stun baton, or just waste your ammo shooting at them. Again, they're not exactly bad, just they should probably have reduced their numbers by like 20% or so.
What's this? Looks like the Remnant are using slave labor.
Well, of course they're enslaving people. I mean, this shouldn't be too much of a shock to find out. This is the remnant of the Empire, for God's sake. Ooh, look, lava. I always enjoy a good lava level. This short part is always something I enjoy playing through. The more brutal, industrial theming is something that Star Wars and sci-fi in general rarely does. So it kind of makes this feel pretty unique, even if it's only for a short moment.
Mon Mothma was right, Jan. Remnant troops are crawling all over this place and they've taken prisoners.
Well, that should bring the Republic running. I'll alert the fleet and pick you up.
Go ahead and call in the reinforcements, but I've got a mine to blow up and prisoners to rescue.
Are you trying to justify your fee?
Be ready for a quick pickup. I've got a feeling that things are about to get pretty nasty around here.
Who needs the Valley of the Jedi when you're already gifted with such amazing intuitive powers?
Just be ready to pick me up.
As you wish, O Jedi Master.
As this portion of the base starts to explode, it's pretty cool seeing it all just start falling apart as we try and escape. Rubble crushing stormtroopers and mine crabs just flooding the hallways. Too bad it also has this annoying screen shaking every 5 seconds, because of course, how else would we know everything's falling apart without it? As we make our way over to the prison cells, we proceed to fight our way up to the main control room. Each level, of course, getting jumped by groups of stormtroopers. If you start running low on ammo at this point, this is actually a pretty good opportunity to actually try out the trip mines to help thin them out. The trip mines pretty much work the same as they do in Half-Life, where you can attach them to most surfaces and detonates when someone crosses the blue laser. They really are one of the most underutilized pieces of equipment that you actually get in the game, with them being very effective throughout the entirety of it. However, let's be real, once you get the lightsaber, that's kind of all you really want to use, right?
Not very subtle, but it seems to have gotten the job done.
I love how all the prisoners here seem to know instantly what's up and just start running out of their cells. I mean, mostly just to get gunned down, but it seems apparently that some of them make it, including this prisoner, who informs us in the 2 seconds it took for us to free them and walk down the stairs, they have already stole some weapons, organized, and took control of an entire docking bay. But unfortunately, they apparently can't get the main doors open, so of course they need our help. I mean, to me it sounds like they can take care of all this themselves at this rate, but what the hell. I have to say, just coming off fresh from Dark Forces 2, this is one of those areas that kind of impresses me. In the last game, they could barely create what looked like TIE fighters, but in this hangar, it is just littered with fantastic movie-like versions of them. It's just a small thing, but it's cool to see how far the series has developed look-wise, and it might be my nostalgia talking, but I really do think that this still looks pretty good for an over 20-year-old game. Dear Lord, this really is over a 20-year-old game, isn't it? Fuck, I am an old man now. So the Imperial officer we need to unlock the door is locked away himself, and to be honest, this is probably the low light of the level. It's pretty short, it's just not really that enjoyable. The puzzle here isn't too bad, having you go back to the control room in order to turn on fans so you can gently float down to some of the lower levels. But then you're stuck running through vents and mines filled to the brim with mine crabs that I just frankly got tired of and ended up just running past instead. You know, if the shooting felt more responsive, small enemies like this really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but here they are just so damn annoying at this point. Eventually we do find the Imperial officer and convince him to open the main doors.
Don't shoot! Get up. You're gonna help me release some prisoners.
It is kind of a neat idea needing to actually hold him up at gunpoint, but whoever the jackass was that made him walk so damn slow, just fuck you, man. Oh my god, man, just move. Just go faster, my god. Oh dear lord, these are long stairs. Just move, damn it, come on. You know, Kyle, it would really be easier to, persuade him to do this if, I don't know, you didn't give up your damn force powers and could actually use force persuade.
You won't get away with this, rebel scum.
I think I already have.
No, don't eat him. Don't eat him yet, I still need him. You can have his corpse after I'm done. I'll give this Imperial officer one thing. Not only did he take those bites like a champ, but he also pulls off a pretty good double cross here.
Enough of this charade.
I mean, I'm Kyle motherfucking Katarn, so obviously it doesn't work, but ballsy attempt nonetheless. I really enjoy the little things like right here. All the TIE pilot uniforms hung up ready to go by the hangar. Just does a good job at making the level feel like a real place.
Run!
Kyle, the evac ships are standing by. Just keep those prisoners alive.
Man, those prisoners could not have decided on a worse place to hold out at. Oh look, an ATST. I gotta say, they are definitely a little tougher when you don't have any explosive weapons yet. Fortunately, we can kinda just leave this one alone for now and take this elevator up to first help the trapped prisoners, and what do you know, another ATST.
Thanks, Commander.
So after securing the evac zone for the prisoners, we have to find our way around to destroy the ion cannons that are keeping the evac shuttles at bay, requiring us to make a mad dash across the canyon to the other side. Gotta say, the whole dash through the stormtroopers and ATSTs made me feel like Lieutenant Spears from Band of Brothers. Man, that was a great show.
Okay, it's all clear.
Thanks, Commander. We're on our way down for the prisoners.
Good work, Kyle. I'll sit down in that small canyon. See you soon.
Oh, it's so nice this mission went off without a hitch. I can't wait to go back and see good old Jan.
Kyle, I've got some trouble here. Hey!
Jan?
Kyle, get over here!
What's wrong?
Oh, I'm sure it's nothing.
A prisoner for you, Master Dasan.
Well done, Tavion. Secure her in the cargo hold and prepare her for processing.
At once, Master.
Blast them, Kyle!
Kyle? Kyle Katarn? You're the legendary hero who destroyed Jarek at the Valley of the Jedi. You look like nothing more than a bantha herder.
Well, you look like an overgrown Kowakian monkey lizard, so I guess looks don't count for much. Hand her over.
You desire this woman? Come, take her.
Ah, Sith spit.
Ah, Dasan, the lizard man himself, voiced by a relatively unknown voice actor named Mark Klasterin, who unfortunately passed away back in 2012. His resume is limited, mostly just side and background characters, making this by far his biggest performance, and I for one think he does a great job with what he's given. The woman from before is Tavion, played by the very talented Kath Soucie, who you might know as the Rachni Queen, Cubert Farnsworth, or of course the one and only Lola Bunny. Now this fight with Dasan is, as you might expect, just him wiping the floor with your ass as you just sit there yelling at Kyle, "Why did you give up the Force again?" I will say, this does give you a great look at what it must have been like being a random stormtrooper back in Dark Forces 2, as Kyle just walks through you and hundreds of others without even breaking a sweat.
Enough of this charade. You're pathetic, Katarn. As a Jedi, you might have proven a worthy adversary. Without the power of the Force, you're not worth the effort it would take to strike you down. Perhaps your woman will prove to be of heartier stock. She certainly couldn't be any weaker than these colonists.
Don't you touch her.
On second thought, Tavion, kill her.
Kyle!
Jan!
Okay, so looking back, it's pretty clear Jan's not actually dead, spoilers, but Kid Me definitely thought she was, and you can see from Kyle's perspective why he would think so too, so works well with the story.
You want a worthy adversary? I'll give you a worthy adversary.
What are you doing, Kyle?
Don't try to talk me out of this, Father. I need the power of the Valley of the Jedi, and I need it now.
Do you believe that this stream of power will ease your pain? Or that you can safely wield the Force with anger in your heart?
Jan is dead. My anger is all I have left. Anger and revenge.
Is that how she would want to be remembered? With acts of anger and revenge?
No.
Then remember her as she was, and may the Force be with you.
It hasn't been so far.
So again, for a lot of people I knew, this was their first game in the series, so this part was a little strange, but still relatively easy to follow. Now, for those of you who might need a refresher,
in the Valley of the Jedi, where legends are born, Kyle faces Jurek.
No. Okay, no more of that, please. Anyway, the plot of Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight was that the Dark Lord Jarek and his lackeys were looking for the Valley of the Jedi, a central power source that held the souls of Jedis long ago. After tracking him down, Kyle finds Jarek right after he used it to level up all of his Force abilities, leading to an epic battle. Kyle ends up kicking Jarek to the ground, saying, "Get up so I can beat you again," before just cutting him in half, which is pretty metal. In the end, Kyle leaves the valley untouched, except for 2 statues left in his dead father's and his mentor's honor. It's pretty telling how Kyle never actually tapped into the valley's power after his fight with Jarek, yet now, after being disconnected from the Force for so long, and losing one of the only people who he has ever truly cared about, he has no qualms about doing exactly what Jarek wanted to do to obtain its power, and doing it for the purpose of revenge at that. Even if this was your first game in the series, it's pretty clear here that Kyle was not going to be your just everyday Jedi.
Are you alright?
I'd forgotten what it was like.
It will become familiar to you again in time. What will you do now?
Find the sun, but first I need to get something I left behind.
Oh yeah, look at that pre-rendered cutscene. For some reason they decided to go with pre-rendered versions for most of the space scenes, yet still kept the rest of them in engine, which can contrast pretty heavily here, but it still holds up pretty well.
Your plan worked, Master Dasan.
Yes, Tavion. The death of Katarn's woman has driven him mad and delivered the Valley of the Jedi into our hands. Contact Admiral Fayar and prepare the troops.
Oh my god. What's this? A competent plan from a villain? How absurd for a Star Wars game. Really though, leaving Kyle alive to lead them to the Valley's location all because of his anger is a pretty smart move. So remember when Disney had a homeless looking Luke set up an academy only to try to kill his nephew because he had a bad dream? Yeah, well, one of Disney's many excuses for the sequels was that there wasn't any source material to draw from, so nothing to base future stories or character developments off of post episode 6. Yeah, they actually said that. Well, Disney, I'm about to blow your fucking mind, because here is probably the best representation of Luke post episode 6 you will ever find outside maybe the Timothy Zahn novels. Here in the old Yavin base, Luke has set up a new Jedi Academy where he is hard at work training a new era of Jedi Knights. One of the cool things here is that if you want to, before going to go see Luke, you can actually look around a bit and watch as Padawans spar in front of their masters, practice with training remotes, or just work on some of their force powers. Watching the Padawans spar each other like this also just really makes you want to hurry up and get that lightsaber so badly. As much as Outcast gets crapped on for taking so long to get to the lightsaber, I have to admit, seeing Dasan just humiliate me and then arriving here and watching the others just fight so fluidly really got me just excited to ditch that slow-moving gunplay to get to my lightsaber, really just building on that sense of anticipation. It's probably one of the biggest cases of blueballing the player I have ever seen in gaming, but it does make this moment with Luke just that much more exciting.
Kyle, I've been expecting you.
Bob Bergen. The man has pretty much been considered the voice for Luke in video games since his first job as Luke back in 1996's Shadows of the Empire. Bergen is also well known for playing the most modern versions of Porky Pig, and was also Marvin the Martian in Space Jam. No, the real one. That's better.
I've been expecting you.
Skywalker?
You've come for your lightsaber.
Yeah.
After all these years?
Jan's been killed by a Jedi. Goes by the name of
Dasan.
You know?
I sensed a disturbance in the Force. I'll tell you about Dasan while your trial is being prepared.
Trial?
A minor test to determine your fitness to wield a lightsaber again. Even in your relatively unpracticed state, you shouldn't find it too difficult.
Why can't you Jedi ever do things the simple way?
If the ways of the Jedi were easy, there'd be millions of us instead of dozens. Take Dasan, for example. He was born on a planet unused to the wonders of the Force, where his seemingly magical abilities caused him to be feared and shunned by those around him. His childhood was one of loneliness and despair until a visiting trader discovered him, recognized the Force within him, and brought him to the Jedi Academy.
So he was a student?
Yes. For the first time in his life, Dasan was at peace. He'd found beings who liked him for who he was, beings who encouraged him to develop his talents. Over time, however, things changed.
How?
He became cold, severe. He belittled his fellow students for what he perceived to be their weaknesses, and argued, sometimes violently, with his teachers. During a training session, he struck down and killed a fellow student in cold blood. Dasan said he was too weak to be a Jedi. He fled before we could counsel him, and he has not been heard from since.
Until now?
Yes.
Okay, Disney, just look at that, alright? Just look at that right there. A 7-foot space magic wielding lizard monster has killed some of Luke's students for being too weak. And what does Luke do? No! He wanted to counsel him and try to help him see the errors of his ways and turn him back to the light side. This is the true Luke, willing to kill, sure, but always would rather help them turn to the light side instead. So thank you, Raven Software. Just thank you for understanding Luke better than what apparently a multi-billion-dollar media empire can.
Kyle, I'm sorry about Jan.
Yeah, well, just give me my lightsaber and I'll be out of your way.
As you wish. Your lightsaber is somewhere in the ruined temple to the south. To find it, you'll need to utilize your primary Force skills. During your test, I'll see if I can find some information on Dasan's whereabouts. Good luck.
Okay, so we're really not going to spend too long talking about this level since really it's kind of just a tutorial for how to use the Force powers. I will say though, if this is your first time playing, it is rather enjoyable. The temple aesthetic is really nice and feels as a Jedi temple should, and the way they introduce each Force power is just very well done. You'll get something like Force Push, and then they'll introduce a puzzle requiring you to utilize it in some way to get through. The puzzles are pretty simple, like having to pull out stairs or activate water pipes or even just using speed to sprint through some gates. All pretty basic ideas overall, but still definitely better than how some games have chosen to handle it in the past.
Press the button to call on the Force.
One of the massive improvements in Force powers is how in Outcast, Force Jump is actually just on by default. You see, in Dark Forces 2, this was its own separate power and you had to activate it as you jumped, while here it's just always on, letting you focus on other things instead. And this might really seem like a very small aspect, but it really helps a lot when it comes to the flow of not just getting around the maps, but especially combat. So after a simple puzzle combining a lot of our force powers together, we managed to get our lightsaber. Wait a second. Why is it blue? Back in Dark Forces 2, Kyle starts with a green saber from a fallen Jedi named Ron, who left it in his father's care. And after it's unfortunately destroyed, he winds up picking up a yellow saber from a fallen dark Jedi turned good guy, Yun. So it was green, then yellow, and in Mysteries of the Sith, kind of orangish for some reason. But why is it now blue? Well, in between the events of Mysteries of the Sith and Outcast, when Kyle was trying to learn more from Luke, he built a new lightsaber as part of his training, giving us this new blue lightsaber. Now, as much as I'm a green lightsaber person myself, thanks to just how cool it looked in episode 6, I have to be honest, the blue saber and the path of the Jedi Guardian, if you're going with the lore here, I guess, does fit Kyle a heck of a lot more than anything else does.
You've retrieved your lightsaber. Very good.
I'm ready. What did you find out about the sun?
Not much. With the help of your ship's logs and the Republic's databases, we've tracked down the registry of Dasan's ship to a Rhodian named Rilo Baruch.
Rilo Baruch?
You know him?
Not personally. He claims to be an honest garbage hauler, but he's really one of the most powerful criminal kingpins in all of Nar Shaddaa. Even the Hutts won't touch him.
Sounds like a solid lead.
It'll do.
Kyle.
Yeah?
I just wanted to say how impressed I was with your performance in the trial. Considering how long it's been since you used the Force, I almost expected you to fail outright. You've been to the Valley of the Jedi.
Yes.
Kyle?
I know what I'm doing, Skywalker. If I'm going to defeat Dasan, I'll need the full power of the Force, and I can't afford to spend years of my life retraining myself here.
Kyle, I realize you're in pain, but you must learn to anticipate the consequences of your actions. You and Jan swore an oath to protect the Valley of the Jedi.
Okay, again, can I just gush over how great this depiction of Luke is? He's wise, responsible, and deeply cares about others and what they might be going through. It's just such a great version of him that I wish we had the opportunity to see more often.
And now that Jan's dead, you're the only person who knows where it is. If you should fall to the dark side, you could use the Valley's power for unspeakably evil purposes.
Are you saying I can't be trusted?
I'm saying that I want you to let go of your anger before it destroys you.
I don't know if I can do that. But I will give you the coordinates to the Valley of the Jedi, just to be safe.
Well, that's a start, I suppose. Take one of the Academy's vessels to Nar Shaddaa. It'll be less conspicuous. Don't worry. I'll take care of the Raven's Claw until you return.
No, not Nar Shaddaa again. I don't want to go back. Please, please don't make me go back there. Oh God, Nar Shaddaa.
Nar Shaddaa.
Ah, shut up, Kyle. It's Nar Shaddaa. And you should know this by now, considering this is, what, the third time we've been here? And as much as I didn't care for the Nar Shaddaa levels in Dark Forces 1 and 2, I just have to say, this one is by far the absolute worst. This level was the bane of my existence as a kid. It is just filled with so much grade A bullshit that could have been easily made bearable, or dare I say enjoyable, had it been tweaked just ever so slightly. Now, the beginning portion here actually isn't too bad, with us going to a local bar to ask around about Rilo Baruch. It's a pretty nice setting with people drinking and people betting over cockfights, and even Grand Admiral Thrawn? Okay, so it's just the same species, but still, I think this is actually the first time we've ever seen the Chiss outside of the books, which is kind of a pretty cool thing in itself. Now, unfortunately, the whole scene has the copyrighted Cantina track just blaring in the background, so I can't really show all of it. Damn you, Disney. But the basic gist is Kyle makes a scene asking about Relo, and the bartender, who's obviously on his payroll, activates a trap, allowing Kyle to get off one of his classic one-liners.
Never trust a bartender with bad grammar.
So I really love this being your first fight with the lightsaber, and for a few reasons. One, an enclosed building with plenty of areas to just jump around complements the lightsaber gameplay in this game quite well. And two, the first time we ever saw a lightsaber used was by Obi-Wan in another cantina when he just straight up cuts that dude's arm off.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Okay, I know it's kind of an overused meme, but it's pretty true here. I mean, sometimes you literally do just straight up cut their arms off, like in A New Hope, and Empire, and Return of the Jedi, and Clone Wars, and Revenge of the... You know what, is Phantom Menace the only movie where someone doesn't lose an arm? Because I think it might be. Speaking on the lightsaber, we might as well talk about how the combat works with it. Now, though the game can be played in first person, it defaults to third person for the lightsaber combat, something I definitely prefer. It really allows you to get a good sense of what you're doing, and because of how the combat works, that can be very important, especially when the Dark Jedi start appearing later on in the game. Spoilers. The combat is kinda different in that the lightsaber swings actually change based on how you're moving. Moving sideways will have a different strike than if you were moving forward, backwards, rolling, or jumping around. And because of this more dynamic combat system, the gameplay becomes as in-depth as you want it to be. If you want to just spastically run around spamming the attack button, then fine, you can. However, there are some people out there who have found all sorts of crazy tricks and maneuvers that allow for some complicated attacks. It is just nuts what some people are able to pull off in this game. Unfortunately, it's been over a decade since I last played this game, so that's definitely not me here. As you play through the game, you'll also unlock new lightsaber stances, a quick attack and power attack that both have unique animations and pros and cons. To be honest, I normally kinda just forget about them even existing and mostly just stick to the default stance, which is good enough to make it through the entire game on anything under Jedi Master difficulty. One other quick thing I want to mention about the lightsaber combat here is the issue of dismemberment. You can occasionally cut people's arms off, which for the time was pretty hardcore. I mean, hell, even more recent games like Jedi Fallen Order still had no dismemberment in it at all, though Survivor, I heard, actually fixed that. I will say, however, full dismemberment is in the game files and can be activated by using console commands to turn on realistic saber combat. And by realistic, I mean realistic. Yeah, it makes it a very, very different game, especially when you get to a point where you're fighting Dark Jedi. I mean, those fights are crazy enough as is, but when one touch of their saber can kill you or him, it's just a totally different experience. Now, for the rest of the game, I'll be playing with that turned off due to just how much it changes the experience of the game so dramatically, but it's definitely something that everyone should try at least once. So, with all this talk about lightsabers, I bet you'd be thinking with this being the first level we actually get to use it in, it must really let you utilize it to its fullest. And guess what? You would be 100% wrong. I just do not understand what Raven was thinking here. This level is such a slap in the face to what makes this game work in the first place. Lightsaber combat here is all about momentum, and skyscrapers with multiple platforms to jump around on would normally be excellent for this sort of combat, except they had this bright idea to put Rhodians with snipers everywhere, preventing you from ever really gaining that all-important momentum needed to make the saber combat any fun. Throughout the whole level, it is nothing but just stop and go as you peek out, get hit with a sniper, reload, and try again. It's similar to Halo 2's notorious Jackal snipers on Legendary. It just becomes more of a memory game than anything else. But the even bigger sin here is how frustrating taking them out really is. You might think, why not just counter-snipe them? And that would normally be the obvious answer. Would be, if not for the insane decision that aiming down the sights will make it so you're unable to move, causing you to just stand still for them to shoot at. And worst of all, to actually hit them with any damage, you actually have to charge up your shot before firing, giving them every opportunity to take you out first. It's just an utterly stupid level that could have been a lot of fun, but instead served as the stopping point for many people's playthrough of the game. And I'm not joking about that. This level is actually so bad, I have met people who got so frustrated and bored at this level, they logged off, never touching the game again. And God help you if you're on the console version of the game where you don't have an easy quick save system like the PC. You know, the worst part here is how easy this could have all been fixed. Just drop a few of the snipers and allow us to move while scoped, and it really would not have been so bad. But unfortunately, as it stands, this first section is ruined by the stupid decisions they made here. Now, I don't mean to sound like there's nothing good about the level at all. The environment itself looks great and is one of the better looking versions of Nar Shaddaa ever in gaming. It also has a few neat parts like using force push to shove people off ledges. And as much as I hate the snipers, the disintegration effects they made for the game when someone is hit looks great. It's just a shame that the first level with a lightsaber is one of the biggest duds of the series. But hey, at least it's all uphill from here. So as we climb to the top, leaping between ledges and avoiding snipers, we hop onto one of Relo's garbage trucks that we can then use to sneak into his base. Now, I've heard some people say that this is one of the worst parts of the game, and to be honest, I don't really get it. Don't get me wrong, it isn't great, but I never really thought it was as bad as most people claimed. The issue a lot of people seem to have is this first portion where you need to find the password to Relo's private chambers. This whole area is pretty maze-like with a few rooms that you would think have some importance but really are just kind of dead ends. Also, the constant thermal detonators being thrown at you from above is kind of annoying. Eventually you'll find a dumpster you need to move, but it's blocked on the other side, requiring you to find a secret way around. And this seems to be where a lot of people get stuck at. However, if you just slow down for a moment and smell the garbage, you'll notice that every trash compactor is blocked except one, clearly showing you which way you need to go. This is why I don't mind Outcast level design nearly as much as, let's say, Mysteries of the Sith. Yeah, in Outcast, it's kinda weird having to puzzle your way through some of these things, but the solutions make sense when you really just kinda slow down and think about it. Unlike Mysteries of the Sith, where it's just Where's Waldo Vent Edition. Well, hey now, who are you? That never gets old. Ah, shit, I think it's stuck. Okay, can I just use force pull to get it out? No? Okay, come on now. Alright, there we go. Yeah, be careful with that lightsaber throw. It can sometimes get stuck, and if you can't reach it, it will take a moment to eventually teleport back to you, which can be absolutely disastrous when facing a Dark Jedi. However, the same thing can happen to them if they use saber throw at you, so some food for thought there. Either way, we eventually find ourselves in Relo's prisoner room. And what's this? Who else do we find down here?
Katarn? Lando, what are you doing here?
Yes, that's right, Lando himself. And I do mean himself. This is actually Billy D. Williams reprising the role of Lando, which is something he did quite a lot of when it came to other Star Wars games as well.
What does it look like I'm doing? I'm sitting in a cell. What about you?
I'm looking for Relo Baruch.
You too? What's the Republic want with him?
A ship of his was involved in an incident on Artis Prime. Remnant stuff.
The Remnant? Blast. Now it's starting to make sense.
What?
Over the past few weeks, a mineral smuggling ring has infiltrated the Cloud City on Besman. Real slick group, too. They commandeered half of our loading platforms and carbonite chambers before we knew what hit us. No one knows who's behind it, but it's become obvious that Relo's garbage haulers are handling the transports. I came down here to find Relo and persuade him to hand over the names of his employer.
Persuade?
Hey, I can be a charming guy when I want to.
Yeah, we all know how charming you are, Lando. We all saw those old Colt 45 commercials after all.
When it comes to having a good time, I've got it down to a science. First you get yourself into the right clothes, then you get Colt 45. And make sure you got enough for you and that someone special. And then you get yourself to a good time place. The rest is easy. Hey, I can be a charming guy when I want to. After a few bar fights and card games, I hadn't gotten any closer to reload, but I had begun to hear about a remnant bigwig named Katarn. Then I was captured.
Katarn?
You know him?
He's a dark Jedi. He and the Remnant have been performing sick experiments on New Republic citizens, among other things.
Like I said, the Remnant connection makes sense. These smugglers are much more organized than the kind of scum we usually get on Bespin. They've got to be Imperials.
Want me to get you out of here?
If it's not too much trouble. You'll need the password to get into Relo's command center and open the cells.
Any idea what that might be?
Yeah, it's Ruby Bleals.
I could go for one of those.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be right back.
I'm not going anywhere.
So something I never really see brought up is how the password is Ruby Bleals. And if you remember, at the first bar we go to, Grand Bartender Thrawn offers us one and we refuse, shortly before he activates the trap trying to kill us. So I guess what I'm trying to just toss out here is that maybe the bartender was using that as some kind of code to see if we were cool, and when Kyle turned it down, it tipped him off that we needed to be dealt with. I mean, the bar was definitely run by Relo since it was filled with his thugs, so yeah, maybe. Ah, sweet, a seeker drone. This little guy is an item that actually floats around you, shooting at some of the enemies. I mean, it's kind of all but useless, but how do you not just love the little guy? Makes me feel like a non-boring version of Baodur. Okay, I'm going to get some hate comments for that one. It's a joke. It's a joke. I swear it's just a joke.
Looking for something?
Not anymore. You're Relo Baruch?
In the flesh. But who are you?
Does it matter?
Not really. Any last words?
What's a respectable gangster like you doing mixed up with a remnant slime like Dasan?
Making money, of course.
You know, I don't know what I was thinking a fat Rhodian would look like, but it's kind of funny. Also, if his laugh didn't already give it away, Relo is played by Kevin Richardson, the man who played the one and only Jolie Bindo.
You remind me of someone else I knew ages ago. Pleasant enough fellow, great destiny, all of that. Breath like a bantha.
And if you're not into amazing RPGs, then he also played Tartarus in Halo 2. He's another one of these A-list voice actors who seems to just have played a bit part in almost all of your favorite shows and games. Normally I love the characters that he voices, but here he's just a crazy Rhodian who just keeps throwing an insane amount of turrets at us, and even more henchmen when that doesn't work.
What went on up there?
I ran into Relo.
Did he tell you anything about the smuggling ring?
We didn't talk much.
I see. Listen, we'd better get out of here. My ship's hidden nearby. What about yours?
Relo's thugs have probably already stripped it for parts by now.
What about Jan?
Jan's not with me on this one.
You two have had another one of your fights, haven't you? Well, come on, let's go. You can buy some flowers on Besman.
Okay, so normally I don't really care for the whole fan servicey type things that games and movies typically do. The whole, oh, remember that one guy? He's here. Or, hey, remember Blue Milk? Thing has always just seemed like a lazy way to get attention. With that said, though it is somewhat fan servicey, fighting alongside Lando and using his ship to get the Bespin is really fun, alright, I'm not gonna lie. And it actually feels like it does belong in the story, rather than being there just for some cheap nostalgia hit. Also, I have to point out, Lando's ship definitely looks like something he would fly. I mean, it's just a giant space yacht with a balcony and everything. It just really fits to Lando's suave style. After taking some time to open up the shuttle bay doors and activating the fuel pumps, we hop aboard the ship and finally leave Nar Shaddaa.
That doesn't sound good.
I don't believe it. It's not my fault.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We still have to deal with reload real quick.
Going somewhere, gentlemen?
You'd better get on the gun and hold him off. I'll have this fixed in a jiffy. All right, say goodbye to this wretched hive of scum and villainy, and hello to Cloud City.
Need any help?
Just sit back and get some rest. I'll work out a plan to get Desan and his remnant friends out of my city.
On second thought, Tavion, kill her.
Kyle! Ah!
Kyle, wake up.
No, Jen.
Kyle, are you okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Good. While you were sleeping, I hailed a new Republic base on Sullust. They haven't shown much interest in our little smuggling problem in the past, but now that they know remnant forces are behind it, they're eager to pitch in. A strike team should be arriving on Besman within a few hours.
No!
I thought you'd be happy to.
They'll tip off Desan.
Then we'll catch him later. Getting Desan isn't as important as clearing the city.
Jan's dead, Lando. Desan and his minion killed her.
Greif, I'm sorry, Kyle. Okay. Here's what we'll do. I'll drop you off on the lower levels. They've probably been overrun by remnant troops, so watch out. Chances are that Desan's operating from one of the loading bays above level 10, but you'll never get in without the proper access codes. Try to find Carbonite Chamber 17. I've hidden an old R5 unit there with codes to every loading bay in the city.
You always did plan for the worst.
Ever since that run-in with Vader.
You know, that actually makes a lot of sense to do.
The security force. We'll work our way down towards your position. If we're lucky, we can trap Desan before the New Republic arrives.
Okay, I know what everyone wants to see here. Thanks, Lando, for dropping me off. I'll just go through this vent here and... Oh no! So unlike Dark Forces 2, where you upgrade your force powers between levels, here you just become more powerful naturally as the game goes on. The idea is obviously that Kyle is relearning how to use the Force, so while at first Force push or pull might barely knock down a Rodian, by the end of the game you'll be knocking down entire squads at the time. This also applies to the amount of powers you have. On Nar Shaddaa we simply had push, pull, speed, and jump, but here on Bespin we've now added Force heal and persuade. Pretty early on in this level you'll actually need to use Force persuade to get this Ugnaught to open this door. However, I do remember as a kid not knowing I had even unlocked Persuade, so I wound up just pulling him around the room, not knowing what to do with him. So you remember those interesting set pieces they had all throughout Dark Forces 2? Well, this time they've times them by 10 in this game, especially starting here with the climb up Bespin. The first large obstacle you'll face will be having to use Force speed to run across these lasers before they disappear. Though I have to be honest, I hate that they made these lasers red, because gaming has pretty much conditioned our minds at this point to view red lasers equaling bad times. Because of this, I know people who just got stuck here not knowing what to do because they just thought that the lasers would instantly kill them like they do in pretty much every other game. Besides that minor gripe, I really do enjoy all the large and over-the-top set pieces this game has. I mean, it's definitely a product of its time, but it's still just so much fun to run through. So I just gotta ask, how the hell do these guys get up on these platforms? Because I refuse to accept that they were capable of jumping up here like I did.
I sense a disturbance in the Force, but there's something strange about it.
You will die.
Finally, we're here at last. This right here is the first of many Dark Jedi you'll get a chance to fight in. Oh, well damn, I killed him fast. I assure you, they're not always that easy, as shown by the next one that shows up right after inside the carbonite chamber. I always thought they probably should have spaced these two out just a bit more, but then again, the lightsaber fights are probably the best parts of this game, so it's really not a bad thing. Now, the game only has around 3 actual boss fights. However, these Reborn kinda act as mini bosses throughout the levels, making sure you still get in that lightsaber dueling fix. The duels are actually a ton of fun, mostly due to just how the Reborn move around the same as you do, making it almost like you're fighting an actual person instead of just some AI drone. Hell, I remember as a kid playing multiplayer, we couldn't tell the human players from the bots half the time. They were so good. Or we were so bad. Point being, the Reborn fights are a ton of fun and really gives you a chance to see how well you understand the game's combat system. And thanks to the pretty wide variety of Reborn, all with different styles, it never really feels that repetitive and stays enjoyable throughout the entirety of the game. Now, we'll talk more about the other classes of Reborn as the game goes on, but for right now, let's just go ahead and grab R5 so we can start taking back Bespin.
You must be the droid Lando told me about.
Oh my god, it's a Trandoshan. This is for all the times you killed me with those damn concussion rifles. All the times in Dark Forces 1 and Dark Forces 2 and Mysteries of the Sith. But what are you now that there are no concussion rifles in this game? Okay, now this part's just kinda silly. So we need to get through this hallway for R5 to upload the codes, but unfortunately R5 will just stroll right through all of these mines if you let him, making you have to quickly deal with them, which wouldn't be too bad if there wasn't a squad of enemies sitting on a ledge blasting you while you do it. Luckily, that Trandoshan we killed had a repeating rifle, which when paired with force speed is just fucking menacing. After R5 uses the codes to unlock the doors to the upper levels, we can finally start doing our part in helping take back the city. Oh look, another Reborn. What's this? He's taunting me? That bastard.
Don't shoot! We're on your side! You must be Katarn. Lando sent us to help.
Well, that was kind of a sudden change in demeanor there. I have to be honest, this next section is kind of boring to me. I mean, it's necessary for the story, sure, but these street areas are kind of just more of what I hated about Nar Shaddaa. And I'm just not really a fan of running through areas with enemies chucking thermal detonators from above at me, though it does seem to be kind of a running gimmick in all of these games. I will say, it is kind of neat seeing the streets of Bespin considering the fact we never really saw much of them in the movies. Plus, there are a couple really good Reborn fights in this area as well, including one where you're actually going against 2 of them at the same time. Oh, and I forgot to mention, at times your sabers will clash and you'll have to actually click faster than your opponent to try and overpower them, which, yeah, seems kind of gimmicky and like it would get boring pretty quickly, but it doesn't really happen but so often, making these moments actually kind of cinematic. Eventually, we do find ourselves fighting stormtroopers again, which for some reason seems to confuse Kyle.
Stormtroopers? What's the Remnant doing here?
I mean, we know Relo is in league with Dasan, and we know Dasan obviously had something to do with the Remnant mining facility we liberated, plus we've been fighting the Reborn here as well. I mean, yeah, we don't yet know where they came from so quickly, but logic would say they're probably tied with Dasan. Speaking of the Reborn, this is actually the boss variant. He has strong force powers and can use the fast, normal, or strong lightsaber stances, making them a lot more versatile. You can actually see them change their stance mid-fight depending on what they want to do, which is a really cool attention to detail that you can just easily overlook your first time playing. Oh look, it's R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Thank the Maker, we're saved. Fine, be that way.
Well, sort of, I guess. Man, look at all those stormtroopers. Ooh, and who's that there?
The prodigal Jedi. Have you come seeking vengeance? Oh, that's not very Jedi-like.
Where's your master, apprentice?
Dasan sends his regards, but is far too busy in the Valley of the Jedi to personally dispose of his pawns.
What?
You still don't know, do you? Dasan followed you to the Valley of the Jedi. Even now, hundreds of Dasan's loyal followers are drinking deeply from the Valley's power, becoming reborn in the glory of the Force. And we owe it all to you.
Then you killed Jan?
That's right. We killed your woman to make you angry. Angry enough to cast aside your promises and rashly seek out the power of the Valley. Just think of it. Her death and your failure will be celebrated for eons to come as the events that brought about the era of Dasan. Congratulations.
Stop talking!
So yeah, it turns out all the Reborn we've been fighting were created by using the Valley of the Jedi in the same way we did earlier. Good job, Kyle. Now, Tavion is no slouch here at all. In fact, she actually cut me down a few times before I finally beat her. She's quick, she has strong force powers, and man, does she just love to choke you. I mean, I guess she won't be too surprising. I mean, just look at that outfit. Luckily for me, the AI acts and moves the same way any human player would, meaning that she's vulnerable to all the same things you are, from falling down if you hop on top of her, or even losing her lightsaber for a short time when she uses saber throw, and what do you know, it gets caught behind some boxes.
Don't! Mercy!
The kind of mercy you showed Jan?
She lives! I can tell you where she is!
Liar! I saw her die!
God, I love this version of Kyle.
Think, what did you really see? What did you really hear? Do you believe we'd risk killing one of the only two people who knew the location of the Valley of the Jedi?
Where is she?
That... Hauler will take you to our base in the Lenico Belt. That's where Galec's ship, the Doomgiver, is docked. It's also where he's keeping your woman for further interrogations.
Why should I believe you?
Because I'm not brave enough to die!
Get out of my sight.
What?
You heard me. Go and pray that I find your master before he finds you.
Okay, that's some grade A voice acting right there from the both of them. I mean, just bravo, bravo. So after filling in Lando with what's happening, including how Jan might still be alive, he goes off to tell Luke as we head over to Tavion's asteroid base to try to find Jan and possibly face Dasan. Now if you want, you can kind of just sneak around here a bit and listen to some of the stormtroopers go on and on about how much they hate being stationed here and how they just can't wait to go and kill themselves some Jedi. Or instead, just go ahead and start that stabbing spree. Hey, Luke!
Kyle.
Skywalker, what are you doing here?
Lando told me where you were going.
Then why aren't you at the Valley of the Jedi?
I went to the valley right after you left Yavin 4, Kyle. Dasan
followed me, I know. Does this mean we have a new Emperor on our hands?
It may be worse than that. Remember those experiments on Kejim with the Artusian crystals? With the Valley of the Jedi's power coursing through those crystals, Dasan has succeeded in infusing his troops with the power of the Force.
Oh, Sith spit. I think I ran into one of them on Bespin.
Dude, what do you mean you ran into one of them? You ran into like 8 of them on Bespin.
Are they still in the valley?
Not anymore. I managed to scatter Dasan and his reborn troops, and Rogue Squadron chased away their ships. For now, the valley's effectively sealed off, but we have no idea how many troops Dasan managed to empower before we got there. It could be dozens, but it could be thousands.
And all of them will have force powers?
Yes, but we've got an advantage due to our training and discipline. Look out!
Man, that's an awesome back-to-back pose. So this part has always been one of the highlights of the game for me, fighting side by side with Luke Skywalker as we take on stormtroopers and eventually 4 Reborn. Luckily, Luke is powerful as hell and could probably kill all 4 of them without you. But even then, just working together as you both duel 2 Reborn at a time, it is so much fun and feels like something straight out of the movies just due to how great the lightsaber combat and AI are in this game. My only complaint here is I just wish it lasted longer. But then again, as the saying goes, always leave them wanting more.
Something's changed in you. You seem less angry.
Maybe. There's a chance Jan may still be alive on the Doomgiver.
Sometimes even a small hope is enough to defeat the dark side, Kyle.
Listen, Skywalker, there's even more to this than you think. Dasan's working with a remnant scientist named Galak Fyar. They're smuggling something called cortosis here from Bespin.
Damn, that's not good.
Why?
Well, cortosis is a rare mineral that resists lightsabers.
Great.
I'll try and find out what they're doing with the cortosis. You find the Doomgiver. If you run into Dasan, don't try to take him on alone. Now that he's been through the Valley of the Jedi, he'll be more powerful than ever.
Don't worry, I'm not totally crazy.
May the Force be with you, Kyle.
Yeah, you too, Luke.
Man, I just get so giddy seeing a good interpretation of Luke after episode 6. Why Disney couldn't have just opened up a damn book for inspiration for Luke, I'll never know. But again, this really has to be my favorite version of him in anything outside of the books. Hey, y'all wanna see something funny? That never gets old. So this whole section is pretty much just us searching through the asteroid base to try to find Dasan's flagship, the Doomgiver. The whole asteroid base is a pretty nice level, putting you through some really interesting combat scenarios, with one of the first being a very close combat situation with a Reborn. You know, I kinda wonder, can I just snipe him like they were doing to me on Nar Shaddaa? I mean, he's not really moving. Alright, and oh my god! Well, that really didn't work too well.
Master Dasan will be pleased.
As we make our way further into the base, we start to see them constructing something. We don't yet know what, but whatever it is, we might as well go ahead and put it into it.
Not very subtle, but it seems to have gotten the job done.
Hey, remember in Half-Life when you had to avoid touching the electrified water? Yeah, well, we got that here too. Ugh, that's just an awful way to go. So it's clear that with what seem to be drop pods and AT-STs walking all around, that Dasan is probably preparing for some kind of invasion, but an invasion of what, we still don't know. But this area is actually where we end up running into a new enemy, the Walker droids. Now, if you go at them with your lightsaber, they will definitely give you a hard time. One of the few enemies in this game where the lightsaber is just not very effective on, to be honest. But right after you get a hold of the electromagnetic pulse gun and pair that with force speed, these guys become an absolute joke. I mean, just look at this. Really, force speed paired with any of the guns in the game is just absolutely devastating. I mean, the amount of firepower you can unleash is absolutely ridiculous and will mop the floor with pretty much any of the basic enemies in this game. Oh, would you look at that? 2 Reborn. You know, I kind of wonder, can I just lure them both into a trap? Alright, here we go. Just a few more of these. Alright.
Where are you going, Jedi?
Oh, you son of a... You aren't stupid, are you? You know, throughout this game, there are a lot of really good set pieces, but the Asteroid probably has some of the more crazy ones. The generator room is definitely a really cool one, where if you touch any of these moving parts, you'll get instantly disintegrated. And they put a reborn fight right in the middle of it as well, and you just know this one is going to be tough. Never mind. Now, one of the hardest parts of the whole level, at least for me, was this giant room with stormtroopers positioned really high up to avoid you. Smart move for them. The stormtroopers themselves aren't terrible, but while riding the gondola over to the other side, rocket troopers will start coming out to destroy the platform, causing you to hopscotch across while dodging rocket fire. Now, unfortunately, the rocket launchers in Outcast are not as cool or unique as the torque bow-like one you got in Dark Forces 2, and is instead your more basic kind of launcher with very little unique about it. Well, except how you can use force push to deflect them, which is pretty cool, but I think you could do that in Dark Forces as well, though I never actually tried it, so not sure. Now, by this point in the game, you're probably thinking, oh, those Reborn, they're no problem at all. Hell, that last one ended up killing himself anyway. I mean, I could take on a dozen of these guys without breaking a sweat. Well, this next part might change things up a bit for you. These are the new Shadow Troopers. They're as proficient in the Force and dueling as the boss rank Reborn, except now wear lightsaber resistant armor, making them a hell of a lot tougher. They also almost always come in pairs of 2 and will work together quite well, sometimes having one choke you as the other just goes in for the kill. They are also experts at ambushing you when you least expect it due to them having active camo, allowing them to just appear anywhere. Overall, they do a really good job at refreshing the combat quite a bit due to just how much stronger they are compared to your standard Reborn. You might also notice they drop a Force Crystal whenever they're killed, and young me never had any idea what these things did at all, and if you look online, it's clear I was definitely not alone in that. All they really do is instantly recharge your Force powers. However, by this point, your Force meter recharges so fast, I never really saw the point of them being here, but then again, it's not like it's hurting anything. Speaking of being hurt...
There's too many of them. I'll never get through this using firepower. Stealth may be a wiser choice here.
Oh, fuck this part. This is such a ham-fisted section, and I personally can't stand it. Mostly because it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that is not a lot of troops, and there is no reason I can't just run in there and kill them all. I mean, by this point, Kyle is known for killing stormtroopers by the hundreds, and in this game in particular, I have pretty much become Death, Destroyer of Worlds. I have cut my way through stormtroopers, dark Jedi, shadow troopers, ATSTs, all through this base, no problem, but oh, suddenly it's now an issue. I'll at least give this section some props that using Jedi mind trick and then assassinating the guards one by one here is kind of fun. And the mini cutscene of you being interrogated to death in a cell after being caught is kind of a neat addition. However, this part just goes on for far too long. Fortunately, after this part, we finally make it aboard the Doomgiver, and hey, what's that?
That's Luke and Hassan.
What a pathetic attempt. Save your strength.
Okay, really cool thing here with this cutscene. In it, Hassan and Luke are actually fighting, as in their AI are just automatically going at it, meaning every time you play this game and get to this part, it will go somewhat differently. Sometimes with something epic, sometimes with Luke just getting his ass handed to him, and sometimes them just kind of glitching out and not doing much at all. I've even heard some people claim that Luke and Hassan can actually sometimes kill each other here. But even with me loading the scene up a bunch of times, and even on my realistic Saber playthrough, I never saw it happen, so who knows.
Spot. What the? We're moving. Yeah, I thought you said not to fight Dasan alone.
I didn't have a choice. I never even felt him coming. He's escaped onto a ship.
I know. I'm on it.
We need to destroy the ship before Dasan and his army reaches its target, whatever it is. Try to find the ship's communication center and use its sensor array to contact Rogue Squadron. I'll keep trying.
Luke!
Force you.
I like how you start off on what seems to be the bridge of the ship all by yourself. Like, where are the officers manning their stations and... Oh my god, that hyperspace effect. Good lord, that is trippy as hell. So yeah, our force powers have gotten so much stronger by this point. I mean, lightning is going crazy, force persuade is causing them just to turn on their teammates altogether, and push, well, push has just become my new best friend here. I know a lot of people complain how the powers upgrade naturally throughout the game instead of you selecting them like you could in Dark Forces 2. But because they can control what powers you have and when you have them, it does help keep the game a lot more balanced all the way through. It's also thanks to this that they're able to put in all the interesting set pieces that are in the game, because they automatically know, hey, you're going to have this level of jump ability. They don't have to sit there and think, oh, did he invest in force speed? We better find a way to make it around just in case he didn't. They just can build around the force powers you actually possess at that time, which makes it a lot more thought out. Remember when we got to control that little mouse droid? Well, now we have the opportunity, nay, the privilege to play as R5. And considering how pivotal this role is into getting through this ship, it can only be assumed that this R5 unit must be in some way at least related to the one and only Skippy the Jedi droid. Skippy was an R5 unit who was blessed with the Force, and it used the Force to mind trick his Gamorrean guards so he could seek out Luke because of a Force vision he had of the future. And upon seeing Luke pass up on R2, self-destructed in order to ensure Luke would buy R2, in effect saving the rebellion as well as the galaxy itself. It's clear with the talent that this droid has, he must in some way also be gifted with the Force in a similar fashion that Motherfucker. So when people talk about the puzzles of Jedi Outcast, this puzzle here where you have to turn on the communication relay always seems to make the list, with most people at best just finding it dumb and unnecessary. You see, for some reason, the communication center is offline, which for a ship that's headed into battle seems kinda just dumb already. I mean, I would think communication would be the key to any good battle plan, but hell, what do I know? Either way, to turn it back on, you have to jump around these nonsensical platforms, searching for the symbols that match the code to turn it back on. For the most part, this isn't too hard, but it's not communicated well at all to the player, and had I been new to this game, I probably would have gotten stuck here and had to look it up. One of the big issues with it is that after you press the correct button, it makes a sound that kinda seems like it was indicating it's incorrect and offers no sort of visual feedback at all to say you did it correctly. Again, is it the worst puzzle ever? No. But it does seem to be weirdly misplaced in a game where most of the other puzzles seem very natural.
Rogue Leader to Kyle Katarn.
Rogue Leader, this is Kyle Katarn.
Katarn, good to hear your voice. We've locked onto your signal and are in pursuit. That is one whalodon of a ship you've hooked, Kyle.
Can you bring her down?
Maybe, but I'd feel a lot better about our chances if somebody on the inside were working to disable the ship's shield array.
I'll see what I can do about those shields, but I've got some unfinished business here.
Understood. Once you get the shields down, make sure you get out of there in a hurry, because there's not going to be much left of this ship once we're done with her.
Don't waste any time on my account.
Good luck, Kyle. Rogue Leader out.
Got it. And on the way to the shields, too.
All crew members prepare to drop out of hyperspace.
Oh man, I just love anything involving Rogue Squadron. It's so cool seeing them brought into a game like this too, though I do wish they would at least mention who it was leading it. I think around this time period, Corran Horn was still flying with them, but it could also be Gavin Darklighter, the younger cousin of Biggs, who I think I remember becoming Rogue Leader eventually. And who knows, maybe even Tycho was out there with them too. Either way, as a lifelong Rogue Squadron fan, I will gladly assist them in any way I can from here. As important as it might be to lower the shields for Rogue Squadron to come in and take out the ship, we first need to make sure we go find Jan in the holding cells. It's at this point in the game we have just become insanely powerful, able to push entire squads down on a whim and run circles around everyone with force speed. This really is the point where you start to wonder, why are these stormtroopers even trying? Because at this point, there's just no stopping you anymore. Okay, you still need to look out for the Shadow Troopers. So I spent an embarrassingly long amount of time at this part. I'm talking over 10 minutes running around, not being able to find out where I'm supposed to go, which up to this point in the game hadn't been too much of a problem for me. I checked the upper levels, I checked the turret controls again, hell, I even checked outside the damn ship. But no matter where I went, I found nothing until... sometimes the solutions are right in front of us all along. Now this whole undersection is filled with walker droids and turrets, which really aren't too bad so long as you remember to use your pulse rifle instead of your lightsaber. Soon we find ourselves once again eavesdropping on some stormtroopers' personal conversations. And holy shit, that's a lot of bad guys. This room really might be as tough as your basic stormtroopers get. Just loads of them with repeaters, missiles, you name it. And right after that, more shadow troopers. But hey, soon enough we find our way to the prison cells, and what do you know, look who's here.
Jan.
Well, you certainly took your sweet time.
Yo, Kyle, rated T game here. Save it for the after credits.
Hey, it's okay. I'm happy to see you too.
I thought you were dead.
Dead? No. In pain? Yes. Dasan and his thugs must have burned out half a dozen interrogation droids trying to get me to crack.
They wanted to know about the Valley of the Jedi, right?
For the first few hours. Then they dropped the subject and started asking me about the layout of the Jedi Academy.
The Jedi Academy?
Yeah, Dasan seemed obsessed with it.
Oh no.
What?
I think Dasan's invading the Jedi Academy. We've got to destroy the Doomgiver's shields before he can deploy his troops.
I think I know where it is. Let's go! I'm pretty sure the shield generators are through there.
I know. You get an escape pod ready and wait for me. This shouldn't take long.
Don't do something stupid like die on me.
And put you through the same misery I've been through? Not on your life.
So now it's time to go take out that shield generator, and it's pretty clear by this point, the stormtroopers have pretty much all but given up.
Hey, you there!
Now the shadow troopers still try to put up a good fight, but for the most part it's pretty much a straight shot to the generator room from here. Oh yeah, Admiral Fire. I kind of forgot all about you, if I'm being honest.
Yours, I'm sure.
The Oarswoman thinks quite highly of you. Did you know that? She must have whimpered your name on at least 17 different occasions over the last few days.
Is that supposed to make me angry? I'm past that, Gallic.
Then what if I tell you that even as we speak, Dasan is descending on the Jedi Academy with thousands of his Force-enhanced, lightsaber-resistant warriors, eliminating the scourge of the Jedi for all time?
I'd say you're insane.
Insane? Then what about this?
Strike Force 1 to Doomgiver. Eastward assault on Academy grounds proceeding as planned.
Strike Force 2 to Doomgiver. Establishing beachhead outside main entrance.
Strike Force 3 to Doomgiver. Reborn troops advancing on northern perimeter.
Within hours, Dasan will have eradicated those annoying Jedi, clearing the way for my ascent as the leader of the new Empire. I, Galak Fayar I, the genius who conceived of the Shadow Armor, will rule the galaxy with a KOTOR fist. Worlds will tremble. Stars will shudder.
Your shields will fall.
So it looks like Admiral Fire has built himself his own version of the Dark Trooper armor, similar to what General Mach did in the first Dark Forces game. And while Mach's armor looked a lot more badass, I will admit, the Admiral here is no joke. While there are a few tactics to pretty easily beat him, I really wasn't aware of them while playing, so kinda got fucked up by him a few times and ended up wasting a lot of ammo. Oh damn, he's got me, he's got me, he's got me, oh no, he's got me. God damn it. I'm stuck. Alright, time to try that again. Oh, and wait. Shit, I can't skip the cutscene. Oh no. I gotta hear him bitch and moan some more. Apparently though, by switching to the strong lightsaber stance, your attacks become powerful enough to quickly bring down his shields. Then all you have to do is shoot that rad antenna on his back to make sure they stay down. But a barrage of rockets paired with force speed works out pretty well too, I guess.
Kyle, this is Rogue Leader. We're about to make our final run, so you better get yourself out of there now.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Oh god, it's the return of Zero G. It actually doesn't control too badly, and though some of the environmental things that can hurt you might be a little frustrating, thanks to Force Heal, you can kind of fix any of the mistakes you make when navigating around.
Come on, this place is falling apart.
Couldn't happen to a nicer ship either.
If we get out of this alive, remind me never to do that again.
I'm going after Dasan. He's probably heading for the heart of the Academy. You coming?
I think I'd be more useful in the air. I'll go to the hangar and join the New Republic troops.
Okay. Try to avoid anyone with a lightsaber.
Good advice, Jedi.
Oh, how sweet.
Go.
So here we are, finally on the home stretch, and wow, this has been a long video already. No idea why you are watching this long of a video on some 20-year-old game, but hey, if you watched this far, please let me know by hitting that like button. That's something that, like, successful YouTubers say, right? Either way, this is the finale of the game, defending Luke's Jedi Academy. No, get out of here. We'll get to you eventually. To be honest, I've always found this first part to be kind of a bore. We start by slowly making our way through the swamp surrounding the Academy, which wouldn't be so bad if not for the fact that water actually deactivates your lightsaber. Now, I'm not sure what the rules are in Disney's fan fiction world, but in the actual Legends canon, lightsabers did not normally work when submerged unless they were specifically designed to, like Kit Fisto's was. Because of this, it makes the fighting in this area kinda slow as you just methodically take out the swamp troopers that are pretty well camouflaged here. I mean, this is really one of the few times I've ever seen the AI's camo work fairly well. Plus, the Swamp Trooper armor just looks really badass. What the hell? Did anyone else see that stormtrooper just fall from the sky? After slowly fighting our way through the swamp, we do eventually get a chance to actually pilot an AT-ST. And let me tell you what, this thing just really sucks. This was kind of around the time when it seemed like every game just had to include some kind of vehicle section. Like they saw it work in Halo and just assumed they had to have it too in order to be successful, but never really understood exactly what Halo did to make the vehicle combat just feel so good. While Halo still remains one of the outliers for just fantastic vehicle controls in a first-person shooter, these controls reminds me a lot more of the controls for Rebel Strike, which is just really not good. In fact, it controls so poorly, I found it better to just jump out and use force speed and run past this section entirely. We're finally back on the Academy grounds, right as the place is being attacked by pretty much all of the Remnant forces. It's actually really cool going back through an area you've already seen right as it's being destroyed. You get a chance to head back through the training rooms we saw earlier and find a few of Luke's Jedis just holding out against some of the Reborn the best they can. It really is just a ton of fun having Jedi allies in this game, but to be honest, given how strong they are, I can kinda see why they waited till now to give them to you. One interesting thing here is that even though you really have no need to, you can force jump up to Luke's central chamber to find a secret encounter. Oh yeah, I forgot I went up there on my realistic playthrough. Damn, that's gruesome. Now I will say, this whole outside section is kind of a bitch. I died quite a few times until I got a pretty good run going and was even able to keep my two allies alive all the way to the end, where we end up seeing Dasan enter the hidden chambers below the temple. So this temple section is kind of weird. Some of it isn't too bad and reminds me a lot of the ruins from the Valley of the Jedi, but other parts just make absolutely no sense at all. I mean, take this wall you have to run through. I forgot all about this, and if I hadn't have gone through it by accident, then to be honest, I probably would still be stuck here. I mean, there's just nothing here at all indicating to run through a wall. I mean, I just don't understand what they were thinking here. Now, I will admit, I do kind of like this crazy funhouse bit here.
Your efforts are in vain.
So you have 3 hallways to try. Go down the middle and it's like a bad horror movie where he'll just appear right behind you in the mirror before running away. Now you might just think you should just follow his shadow that's on the ground right through the second hallway. However, yeah, that's a trap. And one that genuinely still got me. Again, it's been like 20 years since I've last played this game, so I don't remember everything. On the third path, it's blocked by fire. However, just look right above you and you'll see a pipe you can just cut and it'll put out the fire no problem and you can proceed. After we make our way through a few more minor puzzles, we finally make it to the big bad himself.
Katarn. Welcome to the future.
Your future's looking pretty grim, Dasan.
On the contrary, thanks to you, the weakling Jedi who scorned me will soon be erased from history, replaced by a new race of warriors. Strong warriors, warriors who know that the Force is not a shield to protect the useless, but is in reality a weapon to empower the worthy.
None of that's gonna happen, Dasan. Most of your shadow troopers are being mopped up by real Jedi, ones who've been trained to use the Force. The rest blew up with your ship.
What a pathetic ruse. Descend to fire. Admiral! Admiral! Admiral Fire! I order you to come in at once! I was wrong about you, Katarn. Your failure as a Jedi hasn't weakened you. It's only made you stronger. Come, join me. You know in your heart that you'll never truly be one of them.
Maybe, maybe not, but I know I won't be alone. How about you, Descend? Even now, after all this pain, it's not too late. Come, join us.
You sweet fool!
I love how after he finds out his plan has pretty much been stopped at this point, he's just more impressed than mad, which I guess kind of matches his character's respect for the strong pretty well. But here we are at the final boss fight of the game, and I just have to say, I really like this one a lot more than Jarek. Jarek had that weird BS of just running away to heal over and over and over again. But here it's just a straight duel in the chasms of the Jedi Temple. Now, something they really don't explain very well is why Descend is here in the first place. You see, Descend is trying to tap into a Force Nexus that's on that pedestal in the center of the room. It is a little unclear whether or not this was his true objective for attacking the Academy, or if he just kind of figured, why not use it while he's here, but in Legends, these Force Nexuses are a source of great power. The Force is kind of like a natural resource on some of these planets with strong connections to it, and you can actually tap into them at times through these Force Nexus points. This idea will be expanded on slightly more in the next game. However, here it serves mostly as just an interesting level piece that can actually be utilized by either you or even Descend. By activating the panels on each side of the room, a force beam will start to flow through it, and if you jump through that beam, you'll be given a short amount of invulnerability. But be careful, because Descend will try to go for it as well. Overall, the smart strategy is just to run away and heal until you can activate the beam for invulnerability, and then just rinse and repeat. But let's face it, it is way more fun to just go all out and put the pressure on him. Ooh, wrong clip. Oh, Lord. No, okay, let me switch that one over real quick, and there we go.
Kyle, Jan, someday you're gonna have to teach me how to do that.
Thanks for taking care of the Raven's Claw.
It was the least I could do for the pair of mercenaries who saved the Jedi Academy. I know you've probably heard this before, but the New Republic is forever in your debt.
You should have known it would take a failed Jedi to take out another failed Jedi.
Kyle, you were never a failure.
Luke,
I know. I'll be happy to hold your lightsaber for safekeeping.
No, I think I'll keep it.
Ha! I knew it! Lando owes me 5 credits.
Are you sure this is what you want, Kyle?
Look, I'm not saying I'm ready to join the Academy or anything like that. I mean, before I do anything, I figure that Jan and I have earned a long vacation on the beaches of Spyra. And after that, well...
After that, we'll see.
Yeah.
Take your time, Kyle. We'll still be here when you're ready.
Thanks, and may the Force be with you, Luke.
And that is Jedi Outcast, and holy shit was that still fun. I mean, there are a lot of games out there that let you play as a Jedi, but still, no game has done what this game did. Not only is the lightsaber combat and force powers still among the best ever created, but the story is one that frankly still puts most original Star Wars stories to shame. It is far more than just some uninspired fan fiction like we keep getting today, but instead depicts the post-Episode 6 world in a way that both respects what came before while adding so much new to it as well. Sure, some of the puzzles might seem maybe a little outdated now, and maybe the game should have been a little quicker about giving you your lightsaber, though I would argue that would actually harm the flow of the story. But even with some of the complaints about this game, it still to this day stands tall as one of the best Star Wars games ever made. Oh, well, as you can tell, I have really enjoyed playing through Jedi Outcast again. I mean, it's been just so much fun to get a chance to play through this game, and yeah, for a while there, I used to always tell people, you know, this was one of the best Star Wars games there was. And it's great to see after replaying it this long after I originally did that it wasn't just the nostalgia talking. I mean, this game really still holds up so well. I mean, it's one of those games that really kind of reminds you why people were just obsessed with Star Wars back then. Why back then so many people were obsessed with the Star Wars video games. Because I mean, the quality of this game is just, it's superb. And it's made me want to go back and find a lot of my other, like, older Star Wars things. Such as this right here, my old Episode 1 toy lightsaber, which for some reason has Obi-Wan's hilt but Qui-Gon's blade color. No idea why that is, I guess just quality control. Either way, we are still not done with this series. You know, we still have Jedi Academy, the final game in the Jedi Knight series, and a game that a lot of people actually consider to be better than Outcast. I'm not actually one of them, to be honest, at least when I last played it, I still didn't view myself as one of them. The gameplay I remember being far better than Outcast, but the level designs and story I remember being kind of lacking, to be honest. But who knows, maybe I'll replay it here and just, no, dumbass, Academy's amazing, I don't know, we'll find out. And if you want to make sure you're kind of in the know when that video gets released, you can of course subscribe to the channel. Or if you want to get caught up on this series, you can always check out the Dark Forces 2 video I did over here to my left, or whatever YouTube's recommending over here to my right. Either way, thank you again so much for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you again real soon. Peace.